What if you woke up tomorrow to find that the economy had changed and you no longer had the ability to buy or sell? What things can you do today to help you prepare for such a possibility? Hey, Provident Preppers, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Kylene, and we got a very interesting email from one of our viewers recently who was talking about a chapter in Revelation 13, where it says that you will not be able to buy or sell. And she was very concerned about what she needed to do to prepare her family for such a time. So I thought that was a really interesting question, and John and I brainstormed this. And like with any risk, the first thing that we need to do is a risk assessment. We need to find out what the risk is so that we can mitigate it. So what does it mean if you can't buy or sell, John?
Well, I think obviously if you can't buy or sell, you can't buy food, you can't pay your bills, you can't get medicine or other essential goods.
You couldn't pay rent, your mortgage, utilities.
Transportation, fuel.
Oh, how about this? You couldn't access banking services, so it would be like you had no money at all.
And you'd be unable to receive any employment compensation through the normal channels. That's kind of weird.
And you couldn't legally conduct business transactions. So those are all immediate impacts. And we saw this, a little bit of this in COVID, where all of a sudden things changed, right? And it's possible with this, all of a sudden things could change. But now those are the primary impacts. What about secondary impacts?
Well, just continuing along, the inability to maintain your housing. I mean, if you can't pay your mortgage or you can't pay your property taxes, your housing is in jeopardy.
And you wouldn't have access to any health care that would require payments.
And what about your children's education and, things requiring fees? Suddenly those are in jeopardy as well.
This may force you to be reliant on informal or underground economy or charity.
And there's potentially some legal consequences for trying to work around the system. So kind of a weird situation to think about, but maybe some positive things that we can bring out of this that will help us all.
I do think if we could not buy or sell, it is a significant risk. So let's talk about things that we can do right now to mitigate that risk a little bit, we think, because we don't really know what this looks like. We're just kind of guessing.
And part of this in the end is we want your ideas as well. I mean, we've talked about it, we've consulted AI, but we want your ideas, and we're going to ask for those at the end. So be thinking about that.
Okay, now we've got some great action items for you so that you can prepare to live in a world where you may not be able to buy or sell.
Okay, let's start out with building some financial resilience. For one thing, we can keep some cash. Now you have to also recognize there's some limitations with that maybe cash will not be acceptable. But I think it's a good thing to do as long as you recognize those limitations.
Now, what about the gold and silver? What do you think about that?
There are some states, I think there's 13 states, that allow gold and silver to be used. Well, I guess precious metals, not just limited to gold and silver, but precious metals can be used as currency. So that is another avenue. If your state allows that, that may be one possibility.
It's kind of crazy because we just don't know until it happens, right?
So, and that kind of goes into this diversifying assets. Don't keep everything in one basket. The old saying, don't keep all your eggs in one basket. Diversify a little bit. Find some other ways to have some resources that aren't tied into one source.
So even having separate credit unions or banking, not putting all of your money in one institution might be helpful.
Yeah, definitely. And again, build an emergency savings. Everyone should have an emergency account that will allow you to, for some period of time, and you have to decide what that would be, that you have the ability to take care of your needs. And that applies not just to a weird situation like this, but to a job loss or any other situation where you might need those resources. And of course, part of that is reducing debt. The more you can get out of debt, the more you are able to maintain yourself without having those obligations. And then consider community-based economic systems and bartering. I think bartering is just a wonderful thing. We learned that.
We do that in our life all the time.
Yeah, and we did our 90 days without going to the store or out to eat, and we were able to barter in that situation. And so sometimes we were And this kind of violated the rules in my book. We were trading kale for chocolate for somebody. Somebody wanted
It
chocolate.
worked for me.
And they traded kale. I don't think that was a fair trade, but look at those kinds of things, community-based economic systems and the ability to barter with each other. And that's a wonderful thing in so many ways.
Okay, number 2, let's talk about essential resources that are really important to stock now. One of them is shelf-stable foods. I know that there's a lot of people out there that say 3 to 6 months, but if I'm looking at this situation, I feel that you need at least a year's supply of the most basic foods. You need water and you need filters so that you could collect your own water and make it safe to drink. Stock up on medical supplies, right? I think that is really important. Another thing is seeds to be able to grow your own food. Now, if you've already planted trees and you've got stuff coming out, that's amazing to have fruit trees and grapes and berries and all those things. That would be a great thing to do right now, but at a minimum, you need seeds and gardening tools, and then tools to repair things, right? Just think about it, kind of what us preppers do. Oh, and you know what would be really cool? I just thought of this, is a kind of building a library where you could exchange tools, check out tools, but that's all community. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I think that's a great idea because we don't all have to have everything.
Yeah.
The ability to trade around and to share things is such a great thing. So let's talk a little bit about community building and building relationships with like-minded neighbors and hopefully building our community bigger and bigger and getting more and more people involved. That just makes us so much more resilient. Develop mutual aid networks, ways that you work with other people to get the things that are most important.
And when you're designing that group, make sure that you have all the bases covered. One of our kids, this made me so happy, but last year when he had come out to visit and we had this big family gathering, he said, "Mom, we have everything we need in our family alone to survive." Now, not everybody has 11 kids, right? But we have medical professionals, we have teachers, we have electrician, we have mechanics, we've got like everything covered. And that was his point, was that we have the skills that we need. So when you're looking at a mutual aid group or trying to figure out who you would like in this group to help you, look at the different things. Make sure you have somebody who's medical, right? Who can help in that way. I know when John had referred to our no shopping challenge where we did our 90 days with no shopping. Another thing that we did was we have a neighbor who has a cow. And so we exchanged some of our garden produce and our fruits for milk. We went and milked his cow. And so think about that. What do you need in order to make sure that all of your needs are met, and develop this group where you can work together and help each other out?
And learn some valuable skills that you can trade. Carpentry, maybe it's auto mechanics, whatever that is. Whatever you're interested in or excites you, learn as much as you can about that and make that a valuable skill that you can trade. And establish community resources. We've talked a little bit about that, like the tool library, but work again with your community, build your community, and then connect with local faith communities as well. There's so much good we can do as we all work together.
I know that for us, our faith community is huge. It's kind of like our second extended family, and it lets us have access to a lot more skills and resources than we would have just on our own. So yeah, your faith community can be very, very valuable. Now let's move on to practical skills that would be very helpful. First of all, if you can't buy or sell, you can't go get fast food. So it's really important that you learn to cook and be able to take your food storage and make it into edible meals. I'd also really encourage food preservation, because if you can't buy or sell what you're growing on your own property, that's going to be incredibly valuable. And if you live in a place like us where we have this limited growing season, you need to be able to preserve it and make it so that you can eat it well out of the season so you have something to eat there. Basic medical and first aid training. Oh, absolutely, everybody should do that. Growing your garden, we have a new channel all on that. It's called The Provident Gardener. I'd highly encourage you to go visit that channel, because what Amanda and I are doing, my daughter-in-law, is it's all about gardening. It's about growing your own food, preserving it, and learning how to eat it, like how to cook, how to make it delicious. And it's real. right? It's real resources. So definitely the Provident Gardener, go check that out. But growing your own food can make a huge difference because you have to eat. And you may not be able to do that. And that's when the food storage comes in, right? If you can't grow and keep it sustainable, then you need to make sure that you have food storage. And then perhaps you need to make sure that you're working on some skills. Say you live in an apartment, you need to work on some skills where you can come to me and say, hey, I didn't have the space to garden. I really need some food. I have this skill. Can we trade my labor for some food, right? Things like that. And that where it comes down to building those relationships again, right? You need to build those relationships. Home repair and maintenance skills, and then alternative energy. Have a way to stay warm or stay cool, even if you cannot pay your utility bills, even if you cannot be on the grid.
Now let's talk just a little bit about some legal and administrative things. One of those is to keep physical copies of all your important documents. And we talked about that recently with our AI expert who recommended that we all have physical copies of everything that we might need. Just print it all so that it's available to you in the event that digital is gone or it's not accessible. Understand your rights. That's an important one. And then have backup communication methods. And we've talked about that recently, about the importance of being able to communicate, not only just to get information, but to also have two-way communication as we check up on people and as we communicate important things in our families and in our community.
I am a woman of great faith, and my life is centered on Jesus Christ. And so I'm looking at the book of Revelation and thinking, yeah, that's probably one we should prepare for. And you might not be, and that's okay. But I do think when you're looking out and trying to decide what you need to do to be better prepared, being prepared not to be able to buy or sell is all about self-sufficiency, is about not needing external inputs, whether that's because it's a long-term grid down event or 1,000 different other reasons why you might not be able to buy or sell. To our viewer who asked, yeah, this is a great question. And I think we should all be thinking about that.
As you think about it, there's nothing really super new here, right? There's nothing really that doesn't prepare us for every potential threat or every potential possibility. So I think these are just practical things that we can all work on, and we're all going to be better because of it. All those small, steady steps that we take get us to such a better place and builds our community.
So for your question of the day, we need your feedback, right? We want to know what you think is important if the economy changes and you can't buy or sell. What are you doing to prepare? What things have we overlooked? Share it, put it in the comments, because remember, the comments are gold. That's where the real treasure in the video is. It's not in us. It's in this amazing community that we have and how we're interacting with each other and teaching each other and learning from each other. Let's get ready for a time when we might not be able to buy or sell. And maybe it'll all just be perfect all the time and we'll never have to worry about it. And this is just insurance. I don't think so. I think we got some challenges ahead. I don't know what they look like.
But we got this.
We got this.
Together we've got this. Thanks for being part of the solution.